Good afternoon. Thanks for coming to our college search series. My name is Toni Chandler, and I'm the Associate Director of Admission here in Texas, representing Bradley University, which is in Illinois. And the screen you see up here for the Dallas-Fort Worth Admissions Regional Network is pretty powerful in that all of these schools, some right here in Texas, some, all the way across the United States, are here represented in what we fondly call DARN. And your admission counselor for all of these schools is right here in the area waiting to talk to you. Some of them today, as we break out into those different rooms where you can go and visit and hear a little bit about each school. So please take note. We're going to get started with our College Admissions 101 and what we're going to be going over today. So we'll talk about the college application process, a little bit about scholarships and financial aid, and how you make your decision and what do you do from there. All right, so we'll get started with probably where you are right now in the college application process. So what's the first step? You may have done some of this, you may know a little bit already, but researching schools is really important. Getting to know them, getting to find out, what's important to them, what are they really good at, and how do you do that? Through these presentations, through websites, a lot of virtual events going on right now. They may be emailing you already, and definitely their social media is a great way to get to know them on a daily basis. They may do Instagram takeovers or have, Facebook Live events. So definitely connect with schools that you're interested in on their social media. And it's kind of a passive way to learn about them a little bit more. And what are some of the important factors that you may want to consider as you're looking at schools? Location. Do you want to be in a big city? Do you want to be in a college town? Do you want to be in some place that's kind of in between? Public versus private. And we'll talk about the private school end of it in a few minutes, because a lot of times people equate that with expensive. And that's not always the case, but they can be very different. Do you want to go to school with 30, 40, 50,000 people, or would you rather go with 3, 5, 8,000 people? Totally up to you. There's so many schools in the United States, you've got a ton of choices. Average class size. A lot of times people ask me what the faculty to student ratio is, and that's a legitimate question, but I really feel like the more apt question that's going to affect you on a day-to-day basis is average class size. And even delving a little deeper, what is a big class at your school? What is an average class at your school? Those are some great questions that are going to affect you from day one. So it's a good question to ask. Looking at total out-of-pocket cost, and we'll definitely talk about that a little bit more as we get into costs and financial aid and scholarships. And most importantly, how are they going to help you in the long run? I kind of equate college to being a suitcase, and you're coming with some socks and a toothbrush, and what are you going to pack in that suitcase during your 4, maybe 4.5 years of college that's going to help you get out the door and do what you want to be doing? And what can that school do to help you make those things happen? And I think that is a very, very smart question to ask of any school. Okay, so let's talk about some tools. First of all, let me preface this by saying it is okay to not know what you want to do with the rest of your life at 17 years old. When I was 17 years old, I wanted to do something completely different than what I'm doing today, and that is okay. Sometimes in the process of going to college, You're going to learn about things that you had no idea you liked or were good at. So that's okay to go in undecided. But schools have exploration tools, things like strength finders that are going to help you assess, am I good at math? Did I just think I was bad at math? I don't know. Maybe you have a hobby that you're really passionate about and you want to turn that into a career, and that's a great idea too. Is what you want to go into, is it kind of an extended thing where you're going to need advanced degrees like a master's or a doctorate program is in your future for that? That's important to understand. And one of my favorite tools is called Big Future, and it's on College Board. College Board is a treasure trove of information, but Big Future is really awesome because it kind of helps you assess this. It also can help you find schools that might be a good fit for what you want to do. My youngest daughter has a really weird major. Don't tell her I said that, but she does. And there are only about 5 schools in the entire country that offer her major. And one of them, the school she ended up going to, I had no idea they offered that major, but she found it on Big Future. So we owe Big Future quite a bit in our household. And definitely compare the academic interests at the schools that you're looking at. Always keep in mind that schools may call things different things, like communication may be interpersonal communication, it may be organizational communication, broadcast journalism could be television arts. So sometimes you have to dig a little deeper to see what that school calls that program, just to make sure they have it and it is what you want it to be. Okay, let's talk applications. Early decision. Early decision is not a super common type of application, but you may run across it, particularly in highly competitive schools that want you to commit early. If they're going to admit you early decision, that is a binding application, and you have to withdraw your applications everywhere else that you've applied. So early decision is great if you know you want to go to XYZ school and you're going to apply early decision to XYZ school. And if you're admitted, that's where you're going. Early decision is great. If you are interested in that school, but you're not completely sold on it, and that's okay, you may want to consider applying early action. Early action is non-binding. And it is, basically what a lot of schools operate under. Early action or priority deadline is another type that you will see very, very commonly. And in that sense, with early action, priority, regular deadline, and rolling admission, we usually adhere to the May 1st candidate decision day. No matter what. Now, this year was a little unusual, and a lot of us pushed that deadline out to June 1st. I'm not sure if that will happen again this year. It may or may not, but it's certainly something to ask your admission counselor as time is getting closer. Regular deadline, pretty self-explanatory. Rolling admission really means that that school reviews files as it becomes complete. And so my school is a rolling admission school, and I laugh that every day is Christmas at Bradley because we admit and send out admission packets pretty much every day. So they don't have that hard, fast, held application deadline. They're going to review you as your application is complete. Okay, so let's talk about what else the school needs. So you did the application, and applications can come in a lot of forms. You're probably going to run into the Common Application or Apply Texas, or the Texas Common Application as it's called now most often. But there's also university specific applications, and some schools may use a combination. For example, at my university, we have a Bradley application but we also use the common application. Exact same information, doesn't matter to us which one you use, it's just more about your comfort level. You may also come into the coalition application or the Common Black College application. The beauty of using these nationwide applications or statewide applications is ease of use. So when you fill out the common application and you're applying to 3 common application schools, you can say, okay, bing, send it there, send it there, send it there, and you're not having to replicate that information over and over again. Whereas with a university-specific application, you're going to have to do it just for that school, and then the next school, who knows? They may be on the Common App, but there are definitely schools out there that only operate with their own application. Do they have an application fee? You may be surprised that a lot of schools do not charge an application fee, but certainly some schools do. Some schools also accept a waiver. So for instance, a lot of schools here in Texas, if you are on free or reduced lunch or you're receiving some type of public assistance, they will waive your application fee. This is a process that you need to talk to your high school counselor about, getting the form to the university to let them know that you definitely qualify for a fee waiver. It's not one of those things that, you know, you just say it. There's a little bit of paperwork behind that, making that happen. SAT or ACT scores. Now, this being said, we know that SAT and ACTs are kind of up in the air right now. It's a little precarious to wonder if you haven't already taken those, when you will get to, but let's operate on the premise that you will get to take them fairly soon, or you already have a score. A lot of schools will ask for an official score, and that means usually that it's coming directly from the testing agency, or they may take it directly from your school. Some schools will say you can self-report, and that's pretty self-explanatory. That means they're working on the honor system, and whatever score you tell them that you got, that's the score they're going to work with. Some schools super score, and super score means that, like, let's take the SAT, for example. There are 2 main scores within the SAT, and let's say you were lucky and you took the SAT twice already. They may take the best of one section and the best score from another section, even though they were 2 completely different test sittings, and put them together, hence super score. Not a ton of schools super score, but some will. Some will only super score for scholarship purposes. So again, this is an important conversation to have with your admission counselor so they can explain to you how those test scores work. Because of current situations, or maybe at the school's preference, a lot of schools have decided to go test optional or test flexible. We are test optional at Bradley, and this is our first year to do it. COVID certainly played a role in that, but it was not the complete backing of that decision, and I think that's the case for a lot of schools. But basically what that means is, if you have a score and you want to send it to us, send it on, and we will consider that as a part of your application. Or you may choose to apply as test optional, which means that we will not look at a test score. There may not be one for us to look at, right? But we will look at all the other parts of your application to make a decision without a test score. So definitely talk to your admission counselors about that as well. Some schools are test optional for every piece, scholarships, admission, everything. Some are only test optional for admission, but need a test score for scholarships. So definitely do your research on that for the specific schools that you're looking at. Official transcripts, we're going to want an official high school transcript and dual credit. Usually we'll want the dual credit when the work is all complete, but if you want to go ahead and send a dual credit transcript in progress, you can certainly do that. Okay, so some additional things that schools may ask for. Letters of recommendation. Some schools will require these. Some will say it's optional. Optional always means go ahead and do it. It's in your best interest too. So best practice, ask somebody who really understands you as a person and understands your work ethic and what you're trying to accomplish in life. Give them at least 3 weeks notice. Your teachers around the beginning of September are going to get bombarded with these requests. So be considerate of their time and allow them, enough time to really write a great letter for you. Some schools require an essay. It may be off the prompt of the Common Application or the Texas Common Application. It may be something completely different or specific to that school. Some schools may ask for a resume. Some may also ask for auditions, portfolio, or there may be an additional application into a specific program. So definitely you want to, keep on top of that and understand exactly what's required and when. Okay, so let's talk about on our side of the fence, how things are processed and done. Some schools use assured or automatic admission. You're going to see that, like, for instance, in Texas, in the state school process, where a lot of them utilize class rank and test score for assured admission, or GPA and test score for assured admission. Now, what that's going to look like this year for that school is anybody's guess, but certainly a question worthy of asking or researching on their website. A lot of schools are going to use holistic review, and this means that we look at every piece of the student's application. So the essay, the rigor of what you took in school, your involvement, the letter of recommendation can be super helpful in this instance. So those are all the pieces that are going to come together with or without that test score. And it's important to understand when you should hear back. For instance, rolling admission schools, it may take them 2 weeks to render a decision. It may take them a month to render a decision. So not everybody's working at the same pace, but it's certainly okay to ask your admission counselor. So once my file is complete, how long will it take me to hear something? That is a completely legitimate question to ask. Okay, so I'm a big spreadsheet person, and when both of my daughters were applying to college, yes, we opened the Excel and we got to work. And these are all great things to add to that spreadsheet, just to keep all the information straight. If you're trying to keep it all straight in your head, you may miss something. So definitely, we kept all of these things and tour information and contact information for the department chair, the programs that they were applying into. So, the more information you can keep straight about the schools, the better. Okay, let's talk a little bit about scholarships and financial aid. Okay, so scholarships, first of all, I want you to think of money coming from a university like a tree that got hit by lightning. You ever seen a tree that got hit by lightning? It's kind of split down the middle, but the base is still the same. And the base is, total cost of attendance. And the scholarships and financial assistance are coming in together to make that happen. So scholarships can come from the university. They may come from local agencies like your PTA or LULAC, or any number of different nonprofits or corporations that may want to help assist you with your college. National scholarships like Coca-Cola, Kohl's, Dell Scholars, any of those are really big scholarships, and a lot of people are applying for them, but hey, why not you? So go for it. on the College Search Series tab on Texas Darn, there are some scholarships that are listed and scholarship clearinghouses where you can register to get scholarship information that may be applicable to you. So I suggest you check that out. Okay, so we covered this side of the tree. Now we're going to go to this side of the tree and talk about need-based aid. So scholarships can be given for any number of reasons, and they may be need-based, but a lot of times they're academically based, talent-based, maybe religiously based or something like that. But the FAFSA, all they care about is your family's financial situation. That's it. So FAFSA.gov is a tool that you will use starting on October 1st. It is going to have you create an FSA ID, and it's going to have your parents create an FSA ID. Now, if your parents have done a FAFSA before for an older brother or sister, or even for themselves, their FSA ID stays the same. It stays with the person, not the student. So your parents don't need to recreate that if they already have one. But you probably don't have one, so you need to create that. And that allows you to electronically sign your FAFSA, which is really important. Pay attention to those priority deadlines that the universities put out, but you can start submitting that as early as October 1st. The FAFSA works on what we call prior. So you're looking at going to college in the fall of 2021, probably, if you're a senior, and it is going to ask about your 2019 income tax and financial situation at that time. So just know that, be prepared to input that information into the FAFSA from 2019. What is the outcome of a FAFSA? It's going to determine some eligibility for different things like loans, grants, work study. It may also, help you or be required that you do a FAFSA in order to get merit-based scholarships. So that's something important to understand. If a school says FAFSAs are required for scholarships, then you need to go ahead and do it. But there are a lot of ways that schools can help you, but the FAFSA, without the FAFSA, we don't know that you need money. So even if you're sitting there going, and I hear this from families every once in a while, we know we're not going to get anything. I still encourage them to go ahead and file the FAFSA because first of all, you just never know. And second of all, things may change in your family, and we're going to need that FAFSA to help us determine if there's a big enough change that we can step in and help at this point. So the cost of attendance, basically what is coming out of my pocket, your total out-of-pocket expense. So after scholarships, after loans, after grants, any federal work study or anything else, external scholarships that you've been offered, what am I going to pay right out of my pocket? We talked a little bit about state schools and private schools. Private schools have, that sticker price. It's a little shocking sometimes when you look at it compared to the, stated cost of attendance at a state school. Sometimes private schools have a lot more to offer in terms of scholarships and grants. I always encourage students and families, let the process work and then make your decision. Don't make your decision off that sticker price because we haven't done the thing that we like to do best, which is help our families pay for school. Same way with state schools. If you're just looking for the least expensive option, you may be missing out on some schools that will be willing to step in and really help you out. So moral of the story, the money is the last thing to fall into place. Let that process work out. Lean on your admission counselor for guidance and help in this area. Okay, so external scholarships, we talked a little bit about that, where whether it's the foundation in your school district or your church or whatever, Here's another spreadsheet. You can just make a new tab on the original spreadsheet, right? What is the scholarship? What are the deadlines? What are the essays? And I'll give you my best pro tip. Once you write a couple of these essays for scholarships and for admission, you're probably going to be able to take whatever prompt or question you're asked on an essay and kind of amalgamate it to the answer that you need to give for another application. So you're not going to have to reinvent the wheel every time you apply for a new scholarship or to a new school. A lot of times you can take the basis of what you wrote for one thing and kind of make it into what the other one needs. Okay, so next steps. We've done all this great stuff. We've done research, applications, we sent the transcripts, we're applying for scholarships, we sent our FAFSA. Now what do we need to do? Definitely reviewing and comparing those financial aid packages. And like I said, this is often the last thing to fall into place. I will say schools are sending out financial assistance awards early and earlier. Since the FAFSA has been moved up to October 1st, for instance, we're able to send ours out usually by the beginning of November for those students in that first batch of FAFSAs that we get. So it's not like you're sitting around until the end of April waiting for this information. So the more time you have to look at it, compare, talk to your admission counselor or financial aid office about it, the better. Make your decision. Make sure that you're aware of the deadline, but the national decision day, like I said, is May 1st. So definitely you want to have your decision made by then. Two things I want to say about this. Number one, if you're looking at cost of attendance, and particularly with private schools, but really every school, it never hurts to ask, is there anything else that could be done? I am always happy to have that conversation, and with a wonderful student, I don't want to lose that student because they didn't ask that question and maybe there was something that I could do or an extra grant that I could find them. So ask the question. Number two, about the National Decision Day, if you made your decision back in February or March, go ahead and let the other schools know. It's a courtesy to us. It's helpful to you because we will stop contacting you, and it really helps other students out. For instance, we have a grant program at my school, and when students let me know that they may not attend my school, I was able to rewire some of those grants to other people, which was really helpful. You need to ask the school, do I need to make an enrollment deposit? Do I need a housing deposit? Do I need to live on campus? And that was probably back in the research phase of this that you wanted to ask this. Go in and accept your financial aid and scholarships. Some schools may require a meningitis vaccination. Almost every school requires a health form. So there are some little fine-tuning things that you probably need to do before you get to orientation, and don't forget to sign up for that as well. Okay, so mind-blowingly brilliant questions to ask your college admissions counselor. And we may or may not have college fairs this year, but definitely, what are your popular majors? Or really, I want to know what you want to study. So do you have actuarial science? Okay, let's talk about actuarial science. What about housing? What does your school really do well? What kind of clubs and organizations? I had a student ask me the other day about club hockey. Do you happen to have club hockey? Yeah, we're in the Midwest. Of course we can do that. What kind of research is going on? Maybe you're really passionate about something and you want to make sure you can get involved and do the type of research that interests you. And definitely ask about those post-grad preparations like pre-medical, pre-law. What can that school do to help you out to get you to the end goal? And most of all, you guys, remember, this journey should be fun. Don't stress out. It's going to work out the way it's supposed to work out. But this is something that we are so happy to help you do. So again, if you take nothing else away from what I've said today, lean on your admission counselor, get to know them, and they will advocate for you all the way. But this search is what you make of it. All right, so now I think we are right on time to take you guys into the rooms where you can visit with different schools. Thank you so much for coming today. Enjoy your afternoon. I hope you find some really fabulous schools, and best of luck with your search.